Hello, Amsterdam. Good morning. Good morning. This is my third time coming to Amsterdam. It's one of my favorite cities, so it's always a good excuse to come here. So thank you for coming and listening at these early hours. This is me and my Facebook timeline. My name is Ji Lee. I was born in Korea in the early 70s, and when I was 10, I moved to Brazil with my family, and later on, I moved to New York to study graphic design at an art school. While I was at Parsons School of Design, that's where I studied graphic design, I experimented with a lot of personal projects, and ended up continuing a lot of these personal projects later on in life. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things I've learned doing personal projects and how internet empowers some of these projects, and later on how that led me into a job at Facebook and things that I learned working at Facebook. But first, I would like to give a little sample of the things that I did while I was at art school.
Hello. Hey.
Hey. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh no. Project that I did while I was at school. I was a sophomore, and after the my sophomore project, I continued to do this. The point of showing this video is that when I developed this project and I published it on YouTube, this video got over 1 million views. Something that it was unthinkable maybe 10 years ago when a designer developed a project and then you have to publicize in the world. But there are lots of tools this day online that empowers designers like myself that can reach the audience, that can promote their projects. So I studied graphic design, but I wasn't really excited about doing graphic design. I was really interested in doing advertising, and this is the topic that I would like to talk about to you today. I was interested in advertising because when I was growing up in Brazil, I saw some of the most amazing TV commercials. These were TV commercials that changed and shaped the culture of the entire country. People would watch TV commercial and they would talk about it in the workplace. And I really enjoyed the scale and the reach that this, and impact that this advertising had on people. And I really wanted to study advertising. I really wanted to go into advertising agency. And this is what I did. I ended up going to a big global ad agency. And I worked about 4 years trying to really create ad campaigns and ideas that I thought was really interesting for the consumers that would also benefit brands. Here's one of the client that I worked on. Do you know Cheerios, the cereal? It's a very iconic cereal in the United States. They look like this, like donuts, tiny little donuts with a hole inside. The client's brief was to communicate that the Cheerio that is most famous for its yellow box also came in 4 different flavors. They wanted us to communicate this idea into a billboard with a very simple headline. So it's quite a challenge because it's always usually a good thing to focus on one product. Now we have to talk about 5 products in one headline. So my copywriter partner and I, we sat down and we brainstormed some ideas and we came up with these ideas. Only their holes taste the same, which we thought was quite funny, and the client loved it. When we went to the presentation, they all laughed, and they thought it was a brilliant idea, and they said, this is so great. And then my partner and I, we looked at each other, wow, this is much easier than we thought. Usually it doesn't go this easy. Sure enough, one of the clients raised a hand, and he pointed out, wait a minute, the way we talk about a product is not in terms of taste. We talk about a product in terms of flavors. That's our corporate messaging. So we sat down and we discussed, okay, only their hosts have the same flavor. It doesn't sound as good as taste. The conversation went back and forth. It took about 40 minutes for us to discuss taste versus flavor. In the end, everybody was so fed up and tired that the entire idea got killed. And this is a very typical story of what happens in ad agencies when clients and people and the consumers and everybody talking about the marketing research discuss about these things that in the end doesn't really matter for the consumers, because people, when they see this ad, they don't think about taste or flavor. They don't know what's the corporate language of this, a product like this. But advertisers and brands still talk to themselves for the most part. And they forget that there is a whole world out there who doesn't really give a damn about what they think inside. After trying to create ideas that I felt engaging, I realized was very difficult to produce something because the atmosphere in the agency and the clients were very, very conservative. And what also really irritated me and also gave into frustration was to see advertisements creep up on every corner street of New York City, the city I lived. There were advertisements everywhere. It's very different than Amsterdam, where I feel like the advertisement is more controlled. These are some of the shots that I took on the streets of New York. There's walls, and every space that is blank, there's an advertising. And I feel quite frustrated that I was part of this machine that created advertisement that wasn't really engaging, that was very disruptive, that didn't really add anything to my life. I really wanted advertising to be engaging, fun, educational, inspiring, and it wasn't the case. So I decided to spend several $1,000s from my own money and to produce 50,000 stickers in the shape of speech bubbles. This is about 8 years ago. So it was a time when there was the social media was still not big. So I placed these speech bubbles on top of advertisements like this, and like this. And soon enough, I found out that people were writing amazing responses inside. This is a post for a circus, and one person wrote, "Animal rights." And someone else wrote, "Mike Tyson bit my ear off." This is a time when Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield had a fight, and Mike Tyson obviously bit his ear off. I steal music, and I'm not going away. It's an advertisement for iPod. Dumb and Dumber, I, Bush, when there was a time of the elections. What country would Jesus bomb? For a video game advertisement. In India, they're sacred, but this ain't India, bitch. An ad for a Snapple. I used to smoke crack on the 6th train. Advertisement for a movie. An advertisement for IBM says, I use it to download porn. What's interesting about these responses, and I never wrote any of the responses. The only rule that I set to myself that I would leave the stickers by themselves and leave it always empty so that people would write. That would use the sticker as the platform for people's expression. But what was really interesting about some of people's responses is that simply they spoke the truth, that advertising didn't speak. And that when they spoke the truth in the context of advertising, it becomes funny. It is true that a lot of people watch porn on their laptop, but advertisers would never talk about that, or they would not have discussions about that. Here's another one. I lost my other hump to cancer. And I realized that after a few months of doing this, a lot of people started to do their own bubble stickers and place it on top of advertisement, sometimes to talk about a social message, sometimes talk about their own promotions. And it was really interesting how a simple mechanism could turn this corporate dialogue into a corporate monologue into a public dialogue. I set up a website where I also posted the template for the speech bubble so people can download it, print it, and post it on top of their ads on their cities. So I made it purposely open for anyone to participate. And here's a video. Before I go to video, what happened was that this project took off. And I had no idea that this project would take off, but it did. And hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people saw the photos of the bubble, speech bubble project, the bubble project, and they started to do their own. And I had no idea that a very small project that I started in the streets of New York out of my own frustrations really could reach so many people. And it really taught me a lot of things. But before we go into the things that I learned, I would like to share a small video with you.
Finally from us, the Bubble Project. Splattered across magazines, flying across the TV screen, popping up on the computer, the average American is exposed to some 150 ads every single day. ABC's Bill Blakemore has the story of one man who has found a way to use those ads to make art. He does it by harnessing the creativity of the people, and it's catching on. Here's Bill's report.
He calls it the Bubble Project. It's illegal.
Whenever I see an ad, I bubble the ad. A lot of people come to me and they ask me what I'm going to write on it, and I said, nothing. What are you going to write on it?
He wants the public to speak, and they do. Sometimes it's political comical. What country would Jesus bomb? Or the revolution will be outsourced. Sometimes it's social psychological. Why think about your life when you can watch us? Movie reviews. Why do I make such stupid movies? Or sometimes cinematic philosophical comical. Desperately seeking purpose, says Gollum in Lord of the Rings. There's now a book called Talkback with a map showing all the countries that bubbling has spread to through the internet.
And there are also people who have started their own bubble project. progettobolla.com from Italy.
He got bored working in an ad agency.
So I wanted to come up with a simple device that would transform these boring ads that we see, and the idea struck, and that was the Talk Bubble sticker.
But it's risky. We cannot tell you his name.
I've gotten a few tickets. I am mostly very cooperative, and I promise I'll never do it again. I think I'll bubble a little doggy here. So I'm going to put another bubble right here to this guy. We're going to give her a voice.
What would you write? Bill Blakemore, ABC News, New York.
Needless to say, that gentleman was in disguise because it is graffiti and what he's doing is illegal, but the responses are rather interesting.
So, yes, it was illegal what I was doing, and I was caught doing this by policemen several times, and I never had to go to jail, but I I paid several fines. But I had a lot of fun doing it, and it really empowered me, and it really taught me a lot of things. One thing that I realized was that I can do anything I want with the power of the internet. I don't depend on big brands or big media or big agencies to take an idea and make it famous. I can come up with an idea. I can finance this idea. I can get the tool that I want. I can publicize it. I can market it. I can write a PR story. One person, myself, I can do everything by myself. And there are hundreds of millions of people around the world who are doing exactly the same thing. Because this is possible. This wasn't possible 10 years ago when internet was just starting. If you wanted to get idea out there, you had to have powerful connection in the media company. You had to have a lot of money. And that's how things work. But everything has changed. The game has shifted 180 degrees. And the playing field is exactly the same for a big, powerful media to an individual just with an idea. So what really, the biggest lesson that I learned from this experience, that internet is power. And the internet is power to the people. It levels the playing field for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a corporation, if you're a big brand, if you're big media agencies. You have as much power as them. And that's happening today through revolution. You saw that several years ago in Egypt. The whole revolution started and organized through social media like Facebook and Twitter. Something wasn't imaginable 10, 20 years ago. People are becoming famous, becoming superstar because of a very, very well-produced music video. People are finding kidneys and saving their lives. This man posted a story on Facebook looking for a kidney that he needed, otherwise he would die. A stranger found the post and ended up donating his kidney. Something that was not imaginable 10 years ago, before Facebook. So now we have all this superpower. Anybody has this superpower. Before, you needed heavy equipment, distribution methods, but now with a simple cell phone, you can film yourself, put it on YouTube, you can write incredibly powerful work, put it on Facebook or Twitter, and you can have an impact in the world. Another thing that's happening is that people have access to any content, anytime, from anywhere, from any device. Again, another thing that was not imaginable 10 years ago. So what does it really mean? What does it mean for brands? How does it affect advertising? How does it affect advertising? What does it really mean for brands that people have access to any content anywhere? This means that your message is competing with this content that people are generating. This means that people are researching about your products. People are commenting about your services. That the old mechanism of speaking at people is no longer working. Consider this case. Crayola made this product called Outdoor Color Bubble. It's a fun little thing that you can just spray, press the button, and this bubble comes up. And these are some of the images from their advertising campaign. You can see kids having fun with this product. Looks harmless, looks like it's fun. They made TV commercial and print ads and so on. When parents went to buy this product on Amazon, what they saw between the add to cart button, which gets to the buying the product, there is 169 customer reviews. They're mostly 1 star. And people really spoke. And this is the customer reviews of this particular product. There's a 1 star. 152 people gave 1 star. They gave 1 star because they couldn't give 0 star. Here is one of the reviews. If I could give 0 star, that would be better, as others have stated. These bubbles do not wash out. They are thick and messy and have completely ruined my driveway and clothes. It rubbed off onto my light-colored couch from my children's clothes, and my poor dog has blue spots all over him. Worst buy ever. And 48 of 48 people found this following review helpful. And you can guess that the people who gave 5-star probably work for the company, Crayola. So how can you advertise a product when people are talking bad about your product like this? And these are some of the pictures that people posted. It's very different than the picture that the company have posted. So what does it tell us? It doesn't really matter how hard you're talking about your product, how much media you're spending. If you're not transparent with your product, people will make it transparent. That's the power of the internet. It's happening everywhere. It's happening when you go traveling. You know, you consult TripAdvisor. You ask your friends on Facebook. You're going to buy a car. What you do? You go to Twitter, you go to Facebook, you ask your friends. That's the power of social media. That's power of the internet. And there is no way to fool around. There's no way to fool people because everything is transparent. Everything is out there. The other flip side of the story, this is another Crayola story, that people are taking their product and coming up with inventive ways to make this product amazing. There's several videos. If you type Crayola creativity, for instance, on Google, you'll find several videos of people who have taken the Crayola and they're melting with a hair dryer. They're using the hot glue gun to create art. This is something that Crayola manager didn't think about. This is people thinking about how to use their product in an interesting way. So sometimes all you have to do is let people use your product in a very interesting way without having to speak really hard, without having to really try to convince people. Here's another case about a great brand who is doing amazing work about transparency and being honest. Patagonia is an outdoor clothing company. And they are committed to be transparent. They're committed about speaking about their product in the most honest and clear way. So the people have all the information they need to find out where this clothing comes from, how these products impact the environment. A few years ago, they started this website called the Footprint Chronicles that tells exactly where their products are made, how they're made, who are the people involved in the making of the product. So for instance, when you go to the Patagonia website, there is a map with a pin, lots of pins on their map that indicates all the factories where their product gets produced. When you click one of these pins, it reveals the location, it reveals number of workers and gender, the language they speak, and when you click on the view full supply details, it goes into full details about how their product gets made, what is the workers' conditions, and so on and on and on. It also shows how the products come from the manufacturing plant to the distribution center in the Western Hemisphere. So here's an example of the NanoPuff pullover. The interesting thing about the way they set up this website is that they talk about the good, they talk about the bad, and what they think. So there are things about this product that is not good. They talk about here, for instance, that while the shell fabric has recycled content, Primo off, one does not. We use this insulation for its high warm to weight ratio, which affords performance superior to that of Primaloft Eco, made with 50% recycled polyester. So they talk about things that are not so great yet, but they talk about how they can improve this product in the future. So there's a full clarity and full transparency of the product, and people really appreciate that. Patagonia now is almost, their annual sales is almost $500 million globally, and it's a privately owned company. And companies like that are influencing, and people see it, and also corporations are starting seeing it. So here's a quote from one of its the main founder. Every time we make a decision that's right for the planet, it makes us more money. He's the founder of Patagonia talking about his marketing philosophy. It's about doing the right thing. It's not about talking about the product so that people can think this is the best product that they can buy in the market. It's about speaking the truth. So clear is better than clever, because when you're honest, when you're transparent, when you're clear about your product, people are going to appreciate it. And people are going to come back. People are going to advertise your product on your behalf to their peers through social media, through internet. So Walmart reached out to this founder. They saw that Patagonia is doing something amazing. And several years ago, they announced a giant plan for sustainability. So Walmart, that has, I think, the 20th biggest economy in the world, bigger than a lot of countries out there, they're seeing how sustainability or being good for the environment is actually a good business for them. So they're reducing their energy consumption by researching and placing alternative energy sources like solar energy and wind energy. And their plan is that to create a sustainability index to track every product itself, cut $1 billion in cost by 2020 through energy efficiency efforts, and pass the savings on to the customer. So this is a win-win for everybody. It's a win for Walmart, who gets to do something positive, who gets a positive PR. It's a win for the planet that now the planet is less damaged because of the energy efficiency. And to the customer, who end up saving more money when they go shop at Walmart. So it's not only the small and medium companies are doing that. Big companies like Walmart and Unilever are also adopting this strategy of understanding that good business is being clear and good business is doing something positive. And there's talking about no masking things around. There are lots of products, digital products out there that can simply scan the barcode. And here is a product called Good Guy that gives you ratings of any specific given product. And people are using utilities like that. So here's a Cheerios, for example, that got 7.5 in the scientific rating. So they got 10 for health, 6.4 for environment, and 6.1 for society. This website also offers top alternative. So if a product scores low, you can see what other alternatives are out there to replace that product. So again, consumers have the power and accessibility for information out there that they can consume the best product, most economical product, most environmentally sound product. And it doesn't matter how hard you try to speak to your consumers through advertising, unless you're not speaking the truth, it's not going to resonate. And here are the top-rated alternative products. You can see at 7.9, we have Nature's Path Organic Mills Puff, and Cheerios in the fifth place with a 7.5. So again, being transparent, being helpful, being good is a good business strategy for a lot of companies. So let's talk a little bit about advertising on Facebook, which translated really well. Because on Facebook, it's one thing that is very unique about Facebook is authentic identity. When Mark Zuckerberg founded Facebook about 10 years ago in the dorms of his university, Harvard, one thing that he set up, which was very different than any social network that existed back then, is that he set it up a social network based on authentic identity. So your name, username wasn't some acronyms or made-up name. You had to use your real name. And that has a tremendous impact. That talks about transparency. That talks about honesty. When you're talking on your network with your own name, your name is attached to it. So you're more responsible. You are responsible for what you're talking about. And people take that into account. So there are three things to consider as marketers on Facebook. One is social equal people. Two is think mobile. And three is would you care? And I'm going to go through these 3 points in the next slides. First, social is people. So as I work at Facebook, and as I work with brands and agencies to help build their brands, to help build their marketing strategies on Facebook, a lot of people come and ask, a lot of people talk about what is a social strategy? What is our idea for our social strategy for Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and so on? But in the end, social strategy is not something magical, not something that you have to think differently. Social is simply people. You can think of it as a dinner table conversation. That's what usually happens when you look at on your Facebook newsfeed. People are having conversation. People are sharing their stories about what happened yesterday, the trips that they went to, their kids' story, their dreams about future. These are the things, these are the conversation that usually takes place on a casual dinner table with friends, and it's not much different. So, as a marketer, as a product developer, you're invited to join this table with a bunch of people. We're talking about these things. What are you going to be talking about it? What are you going to be telling these people that's going to add to the conversation? It's a very different way of thinking in a way that the traditional advertising, but it's not a very different way of thinking than just having a conversation with your friends. So being authentic matters. And people can smell that. The moment you're not authentic, people can smell that from miles of distance. You can see someone at a dinner table at a cocktail party who is all, trying to impress you about how great they are. You can see that this person is not authentic. You're not going to be interested in talking to that person. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to brands when they're trying to speak to the consumers. Second point is to think mobile. So as you all must have heard about it, the world is going mobile. This is not anything new, and it's absolutely just a fact that the whole world is going mobile. There are about 480 million global mobile daily active users. That's a lot of people who are coming to use Facebook on a daily basis. So here's hours per month per user in the US. So, in average, there's a person uses about 13 hours and 3 minutes using Facebook. And that's a lot of time people are doing. You can see that whenever you're walking around, try to observe people using their cell phone. If people are doing this, scrolling their thumbs, probably they're looking at their newsfeed, right? And you can see that all the time. I peek through sometime as I walk by the streets and train station. There's a lot of people who are scrolling through their newsfeed. And they're there to find stories from their friends, to find stories about breaking news, and also to find stories about brands that they love to hear from. So this is a very powerful medium. This is a very, very powerful space. It is one of the most intimate space, one of the most powerful space that fits in your pocket, that goes wherever you go, and it contains some of the most important story in people's life. And 23% of the time people spend on their smartphone happens on Facebook. Just think about that, 23%. At distant second, we have 3%. We have Instagram and also Google Maps. So if this is one of the most powerful space, this is where your message is going to be delivered. How are you going to think about your message? And here's a quick video to show the power of a newsfeed. So a lot of the content that you saw in this video actually come from my newsfeed. These are the things that I saw on my newsfeed. I went through the history of things that I've liked, things that I've commented on. You know, there's pictures of my nephew who lost his tooth. There is, I found out about the Red Bull historic jump of the Philip Baumgarten, the revolutions in Egypt. All these things were on my newsfeed. And this is when I found out the most important stories in my life. This is a space where I talk to my friends and I see my nephew's photos from Brazil. So your message as a marketer, your message as an advertiser will be in between those images of my nephew losing his tooth, of my friend's trip. So what are you going to say that is going to be relevant? What are you going to say that's going to add to these stories? That's a very, very important, I think, point to think about. Again, it's a very powerful platform, and it's called Newsfeed. And this is a picture of a friend of mine who just had a baby. And these are the type of the story that I see. These are the type of the stories that people see. And here are some examples of other brands who are creating interesting stories. Here's a BMW post on Facebook. They saw that a boy called Eli wrote his dream car in a car blog. They picked that up, and they actually, this car had like the 48 wheels and had like a toy compartment in the back, and they took that idea and actually made a rendering of the BMW car. And it also happened to be BMW that he wanted to have a BMW car. So what a great story. They made an advertising message for just one boy, but they know that a lot of people are going to see this because this is an authentic, really heartwarming story. Oreo does a great job in communicating with their audience. This is the infamous Pride post that they posted during the Pride Week in the United States. And they took the cookie and they put the rainbow flag. And then just look at the number of likes. There are nearly 300,000 likes, 90 shares, and 60,000 comments. One single post was able to do that, which means if 300,000 people liked, just imagine how many hundreds of millions of people saw this post because of one simple post. This is a post that they did during the Super Bowl last year when there was a blackout. Within minutes of the blackout, and everybody was talking on their Facebook newspaper about this blackout. They talked about the blackout. Power out, no problem. You can still dunk in the dark. So they were part of the conversation. They know that the people are talking about it. So let's put a post that is part of that conversation that's happening in social space. Very simple recipe that turns just combining Oreo cookie with milk and turn it into popsicle. It's very useful. I showed this to my girlfriend. She wanted to make this. Another brand that is doing a good job is a small beer company called Newcastle. Is published by a creative agency in New York called Droga 5. They just talk about truth. Their line is no bollocks, no bullshit. Like us on Facebook so we can legally spam with your ads. Here's an example. Why does Newcastle Brown Ale always look deliciously perfect? Because it is a perfect looking beer, also Photoshop. No bollocks. Clicking like on this post doesn't make us any money. So instead of clicking like, go buy a Newcastle because that makes us money. No bollocks. Nicholas Newman, an innovative young employee, suggested adding lime to our beer. He doesn't work here anymore. No bollocks. So very refreshing. You know, advertising to speak the truth is very refreshing, and people know that, and people spread that. People are going to be talking on behalf of Newcastle and going to buy their products. And you can find more posts like this in the Newsfeeder website, which is a website which I helped to create. You can see a lot of examples of great brands who are doing great publishing on Facebook platform. The last point is, would you care? And I think this is probably one of the most important points, is that you as a marketer, you as a product developer, you as a startup are also people, are also consumers. So one question to ask before you speak to your audience is to ask yourself, would I care if I saw this on my newsfeed? Would I care if I saw it on my Twitter? Would I care if I saw this video on YouTube? If the answer is no, probably it's not a good idea. If the answer is yes, it's probably you're doing the right thing. In the end, it all comes to that. So the word advertising comes from Latin, advertere, which means turning someone's attention towards, disrupting. So I think what we see these days is more and more the idea that from advertising, we're moving to advertising, where actually the advertiser adding something, to adding value, to helping people, to actually entertaining people, adding something to people's life. And we're seeing more and more that great advertising, great brands who are doing great projects, they're going from advertising to people to advertising for people. And these are just ideas that I share with you today. And these ideas may inspire you, may want to think about the way you do the branding. But these are just ideas. And in the end, ideas are nothing until you do something about it. And I hope this idea will inspire to do something. And I hope to see a lot of great messages that are coming from my newsfeed, from a lot of the products and messages that you want to say. So with that, I thank you very much. And thanks for listening. Thank you.